Bill, whenever you're ready.
I don't. Can you put it so my slides are showing?
Yep, we will. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today for the AC Trees webcast on smartphone apps and smartphone programs. The Alliance for Community Trees webcast series is a monthly webcast held at the lunch hour. The trainings leverage local successes by amplifying to a larger audience two model organizations, methods, materials, and approaches. Sessions are planned to last no more than 1 hour, with two presenters speaking on the same topic from slightly different perspectives, each for 10 to 15 minutes, followed by 10 to 15 minutes of questions and answers. Today's session is approved by the ISA for 1 CEU, so if you haven't already given me your certification number, please email it after the session. Almost everyone who has one did in your registration, but if not, just shoot me an email. Also, most state landscape architecture boards require only a certificate of completion, which we can provide to anyone who needs one. So again, email me at leland@actrees.org after the session if you need one of those. This webcast is a program of the Alliance for Community Trees. We are a national network of local organizations working to improve their communities by planting and caring for trees. If you're not a member already of Alliance for Community Trees, please consider joining. A special thanks today to our partner, the USDA Forest Service, and also to our presenters, and to all of you for joining us this afternoon. Today's session is Tree Technology Part 4, Smartphone Apps. Millions of Americans have access to the latest technology in the palms of their hands. Smartphone applications, or apps as we all call them, not only play games and connect to the web and take photos and show us Facebook, they can also be used to increase awareness and engagement in managing urban forests. Cities and organizations can use apps to recruit and educate volunteers, to receive tree status updates from people on the street, to lead interactive guided tours, and to help residents identify trees in their neighborhoods. Smartphone tree apps are revolutionizing the connection between people and trees, and there are new ones being released all the time. Today's session will introduce you to several popular and useful tree apps and show you how some organizations are taking advantage of mobile phone technology. We recognize that there are a lot of apps out there, lots of smartphone tools, and in our limited time today, we can't cover all of them, even though I think you'll be impressed. There's a lot packed in today's session. So if you know of any other neat apps, or if your organization uses smartphones, please share that with us. After today's session, send me your app recommendations and your program success stories, and we'll include them in the resource list that we're putting together. That said, we have two great speakers here today covering the great work that they've done using apps, and we're really excited to have join us our first presenter today, Philip Patyandi. Philip is a forester technician serving the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. He provides a link to connect residents of Minneapolis and St. Paul to their urban forests in various ways, but especially through technology. He's leading an initiative to create a tree app to engage residents in the Minneapolis area. He's also the author of I Things for Urban and Community Forestry, the presentation that we're about to see, which is an extensive overview of tree-related smartphone applications. While working as part of the University of Minnesota's Extension program, Philip is also a student there, where he's pursuing graduate studies on the impact of urban tree canopy on energy use at the community scale in Minnesota. Philip is a member of the Society of American Foresters, the International Society of Arboriculture, and the Isaac Walton League's Gopher State chapter, and we're psyched for his presentation. Philip, take it away.
Hello. Thank you so much for letting me share the apps that I'm using and also the ones I've looked at. I'm excited to present to all of you. So I Things for Urban and Community Forestry. There's a number of apps out there. I'm today going to focus specifically on apps for iPhones, iPads, and iPod Touches, so things based around the Apple's operating system. So when I say iThings, these are the things I'm talking about. These devices, as many of you probably know, connect to the internet. There's two different ways they can connect to the internet, and this is a decision you make at the point of when you purchase one of these devices to decide, do you want a device that can only connect to Wi-Fi, or do you want a device that can connect to Wi-Fi and also 3G? And you pay a little bit higher price for ones that connect to the internet via a cell phone signal, 3G or 4G to do that. And I'll sort of point out some of the differences in the apps and the way they function based on what type of device you have. So these devices run on an operating system known as iOS, and this is another mobile operating system out there is the Android operating system, which you might be aware of. It's kind of like, there's the Mac operating system for Apple computers, and then there's also the Windows operating system. So there's just different ways the machines run and different apps that are made for these different operating systems. Today I'm going to kind of give a survey of a lot of different types of apps. These are the categories of the apps that I'm going to give brief kind of introductions to. So hopefully you'll see some and be interested in some and want to dig in deeper, and during the question and answer time we'll sort of figure out which areas that is. But then on your own, I'm assuming this whole presentation will be available so you can track down all these apps on your own time following the presentation. I'm going to start out with tree map apps. So applications for mobile devices that allow you to look at a collection of trees in a given area. That's actually one of the apps that I got to help out with. It was really a project led by the University of Minnesota and a partnership between the city, Minneapolis, and also St. Paul to build an app called TC Trees that shows our heritage trees and in Minneapolis and the landmark trees in St. Paul, and we've also put some parks into this app as well, and we've got a number of parks ready to go into there, and we're building it, trying to get those put into the next version, more and more parks, so that people can find any tree in a park near their home and determine what it is and what size it is. And the heritage tree version of it also has images of the trees, the biggest in a given species. And there's also other heritage tree applications out there. The PDX Trees is out of Portland. That's actually, they left their code as open source. So we were able to, the student developer at the University of Minnesota his name is Thomas Ricard, worked with Chad Giblin in horticulture and urban forestry as a student worker to do the development work on the app, and he used that open source code from the PDX Trees. So thanks to the developers of that app for leaving that code open source. Heritage Trees in Seattle is another similar application. San Francisco, SF Trees is also similar. In New York, there's an app that many of you might be aware of where they put their entire street tree inventory out there. I'm not sure if it's been updated since its initial release, but that application has a number of trees along all the streets, and including giving the species and the size of those trees. It'll tell you the benefits of the trees within the screen that you have. Another couple of really cool apps focused around tours, guided tours, there's the Tree Tours app from Atlanta, and then also, and that app is pretty cool. It's got audio, so someone's voice comes in if you click to listen to information about the species that are highlighted in that tour. And then Oregon State University also has a tree tour on their campus, which the app will guide you around part of the campus, and you can learn about the trees in there. You might be thinking now, man, we've got a cool collection of trees that I work to manage, or I work to highlight in the city that I live or work in, but I don't know how to develop an app, and I don't know if we can afford a developer, or maybe I can find a student willing to learn it. But if you can learn the tools to make a Google map, you can put something out that looks a lot like an app that will be available when a phone is connected, or a phone or iPad is connected to an internet connection. And that's something I've done with this Minneapolis Trees, is I put our heritage trees on a Google map, and then through the Safari browser I can bookmark it and tell it to go to the bookmark it to the to the desktop of the device, and then it basically functions like an app. I need an internet connection for that to work, but it does work in that function. Moving on, using apps for instruction purposes is also a great tool. There's a number of different knot tying apps out there. If you are looking to learn how to tie knots, or the people you work with would like to learn that, Corona, the pruner maker saws, they actually have an app out there that gives pretty good direction. You know, I guess it costs money. I'm highlighting when an app costs money, and if there isn't a price, the app is free typically. This one actually cost, I had to make a decision: did I want to buy a bottle of pop or learn something about trees? And this one, so for 99 cents, I bought this app. Just, I now know how to keep my tool sharp. For my pruner sharp. So I thought that was pretty cool. QR codes, another project, there's a number of QR code readers, which basically is a link, and I'm really looking forward to hearing Ian speak more about QR codes. University of Minnesota arboriculture class, but under the direction of Gary Johnson recently, did a campus tree tour where they put tags on trees around campus temporarily, so that students or any visitors to campus could then learn about those tree species, and students developed videos related to those trees, and that's a project that's, I think, really great. Could be transferred to any of species, not just on that campus. That project could really be transferred, and it connects up with those videos and that information. Arborville was a video collection app that was out for a while, but recently, in preparing for today, I looked it up, and it is no longer out there. So it was a collection of pruning guides that a woman had arborists put out there, and that's no longer online. So there's a niche if someone's looking for something to add to the pile. Build a nice video application with direction. Tree Benefits is another part of the apps that are available for mobile devices. TreeSense is basically a mobile version of treebenefits.com. That's built by Data Resource Group. iTree 5.0 is on the horizon. It's supposed to be out late summer from what I've read, and both of these apps are apps that you need to be connected to the internet for them to function. So what they've done is they've made mobile versions of websites so that when you go to this website, it renders properly on a small device. And that's a pretty smart move on their part, I believe. You do need to have a device that's connected to the internet for these to function. So if you have a Wi-Fi only device and you're in the middle of the woods where there isn't Wi-Fi, or in a park, or maybe even just on the street where there isn't Wi-Fi, you won't be able to connect. You could, if you only have Wi-Fi devices available to you, you could get something that's known as a MiFi device that will grab an internet signal from a cell phone tower and then push or make your own little hotspot, a Wi-Fi, MiFi hotspot. That's a potential workaround. Now, it's interesting what you get when you type in iTree and iPhone into a search function. I don't want this be confused with the iTree iPhone dock that's made out of an entire log, but that's interesting too. Also, field tools, things that you can use to measure or think about proper tree placement. There's a couple apps that I think are pretty cool. These do have a price, thinking of it's one where you have to think, will I use this, or am I just curious? And depending on how much you want to pay for entertainment, this isn't too much, even if it is just for curiosity's sake. Spectra Ruler I found to be a really great app that lets you measure the height of something, which there's a lot of hypsometer style apps that'll do that, but this one also, with its functioning, allows you to take the width of something. So it functions based on you stand in a location, take a picture of the thing you want to measure, take a set number of steps towards that object, and then take another picture, and then define what the thing is you were interested in on those images. And based on that triangulation, it can figure out the height and width of the object. Pretty cool. I found it to be as accurate as I needed for the projects I've worked on with it. Sun Scout is a cool, really cool app. Thinking of tree placement, if you're helping place a tree, I know a lot of ACT members work on tree planting projects. If one of your goals is to, say, put a tree on the west side of a house to block that late afternoon summer heat from penetrating into the windows, getting that tree in the right spot is really important. But if you're planting that tree in the fall, you might not know exactly what the path of the sun is going to be, or if you're there on a non-sunny day or whatever. This app will allow you to go to the time of year that you're interested in and see where will the sun be at a given time of day just by holding up your phone. Now, it needs to be a device that has a camera. So an older iPad wouldn't be able to do this, but with a device that has a camera, you can use the Sun Scout application for placing a tree. Thinking of early detection, there's a number of apps out there built by a group called Bugwood, and therefore tracking the spread of invasive pests and invasive plants. There's that whole capture over there on the right is a whole list of them. Elmwood is another similar app, or Open Elm, I should say, out of Canada, looking to track the spread of Dutch elm disease. Another really interesting app that I saw is Firewood Buddy. This is a West Coast app, and they show the location of places where you can buy firewood, so you're not transporting firewood over a long distance. The app also has some campfire sing-along songs and stories in there too, which is kind of cute and interesting. Growing Degree Days is another great reference tool. It tracks the growing degree days for the area where you are. So when thinking about the flight periods of a pest or when a certain plant might be blooming or going to seed, this app can be helpful for targeting your management for those species, or even just choosing a proper plant for the proper location. Data collection is another great way to use your mobile devices. Google Docs has their Google Forms if you want to set it up ahead of time, Google Spreadsheets if you want more of an open table, and then there's also Google Tables, which is a little bit newer to the field. Google Tables will let you link to a map, which is pretty interesting, worth looking into. You'll need a web connection to use those. iWork are spreadsheets that you don't need a connection to use, but there is a cost for each of those. Those are kind of the Apple version of the Microsoft suite, which you can use on your device to just track information. You could send a volunteer group out and to collect information within the bounds of a study that you've set up for a citizen science initiative. There's also a number of GIS and mapping tools out there. ESRI, ArcGIS has a free app that you can connect to and work on shape files from. Now, you would want someone on your team that has GIS experience to be able to use that app. There is the ability to view GIS data, and also now the ability to edit that GIS data depending on how it's hosted. GIS Roam is another. And with the ArcGIS, you might also need a certain a license for that software to use that data on your computer, but the app itself is free. I'm going to BAO, Business Analyst Online, is a free ESRI tool where you can look at a given area and start to look at, I think it uses census data and some other data sets to look at, well, what's the median income of this neighborhood? What's it just tries to describe that population. That might be a useful tool for some of the organizations that are listening into the call right now. GIS Roam, I think, is a really great app for working with GIS shape files, putting them up onto a device. In fact, I did a whole tree canopy digitizing for part of a community with that. I was able to do that work on a road trip because I could just work on my iPad and do that digitizing on the road. That was a great app. You can upload a raster and then do that digitizing, but you can do any sort of GIS work in that app in the field as well. Google Maps, of course, is a great way to look at a bunch of information. My Maps is an app that will allow you to, if you have built a map for I think it's called My Places now, no longer My Maps online. You can edit that map content from your device by using a tool called My Maps. It's a free tool. It'll also let you edit Google Fusion tables. So that's really exciting, where you don't need to have someone with GIS skills to be doing that work. You can use the Google tools that are available. Gaia GPS and offline topo maps. I put that there just because I think if you know you're not going to be connected to the internet while you're out and about, but you need or want some mapping, both of those apps allow you to download ahead of time a topographical map of that area, so that you don't need to be connected, because the GPS in these devices still functions even though you're not connected to the internet. So it'll still show you where you are on that map. I found those to be very useful. There's a number of Tree ID apps out there. I'm sort of highlighting a couple of the ones that sort of rise to the top for me. I guess my personal favorite is that Leaf Snap app. It has a ton of excellent photos. It also has the ability to take a picture of a leaf if you have it on a white background, and it'll start to narrow down your search. I tend to use Tree ID apps mostly as almost like a reference tool. These also have the ability to, some of them have dichotomous keys in them, excellent drawings, and the Tree ID with the question mark app. It didn't have photos, but I still thought it was really great. I recommend all four of these. The Tree ID app had a lot of characteristics to limit search by. One of the coolest things about the My Nature Tree Guide app is that it had the meanings of scientific names, which I found that to be really helpful as I learned species names, was to have those scientific names. Well, what the heck do they mean? And that was really helpful for me. Now, there's a number of apps out there that just allow you to have references at your fingertips. Durr's Tree Guide, or Tree and Shrub book, the encyclopedic list of cultivars, is available for your device. You might go, but come on, $14.99, that's so expensive. It's expensive relatively for an app, but thinking of the price of that book, and now I can have it in my pocket at my fingertips whenever I want, pretty inexpensive to have that available if knowing cultivar information and characteristics of a given plant is important to you. There's a tree fungus ID app that's available out there. If you have a bunch of PDFs that you want to reference, just having that information stored on your device, you can store it in iBooks or a number of other PDF readers. You could also sync it via Dropbox to have devices in your Dropbox account on your computer. You can have them also showing up on your iDevice. Or if you have images that help you tell a story to a client or a citizen, having those images on your device so you can show them, or videos about a given topic for your reference or for sharing. And, well, the entire internet is available as well if you have a device that's connected while you're out and about. There's also a number of apps. I think more and more municipalities are starting to get these apps that allow someone to report like a pothole or something that's wrong. I think some of them are also allowing the ability to report if a tree is, a broken limb or something. That is also a possibility in some of these municipal apps as well. There's a number. There's 25 billion apps out there, and so I've sort of scraped a little bit of the surface and tried to bring the ones that are related to urban and community forestry, at least that I've found, to the top. A bunch of other topics that could be pertinent to this group as well. I'm thinking about social media, our whole nation's in drought, apps related to rain or weather tracking, thinking about research and writing. I'm working on my thesis. I've used the device quite a bit for that. Thinking about website trafficking, is this project really working? You can do that. Small business productivity is a huge area. Getting credit card donations, payments, or billing. Tracking literature, that's related to that research and writing. To just having a phone with you, taking a picture before and after a project. It's easier to do if it's a phone because it has the camera there as well. Thinking about work proposals, drawing on a given photo. I am done for now. That's enough. Let's hear what other ideas you all have, or what dialogue or questions you might have for me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Philip. That is a great overview of so many wonderful apps that are out there. I think people are going to spend a lot of time digging back through this presentation. I'm sure people will be scribbling down notes, and I want to remind everyone that we will be making this presentation available on our website so that you can watch it in the future. We'll also put together a resource list where we will include a good number of these apps, and you'll be able to access that. So you can spend a lot of time on your Apple device looking for all of these tools. We're now going to open up for questions and answers, and you can type in your questions to us over that Q&A tab that you'll see at the top of your screen. Just type in your questions there, and we will answer them, or not me, but our experts here, Philip, will answer them. And we'll be doing this again after Ian's presentation as well. So use that Q&A tab right there. As people are lining up and starting to ask their questions, I have a quick one. First, I know that you use a lot of Apple technology, which is great. I do too, and we happen to be an all-Mac office. But for people who have Android phones, there are apps out there for them too, right?
Oh yeah, there are many apps out there for Android devices as well. I unfortunately don't have a thorough knowledge of them, but yeah, in fact, some of the apps that I've discussed also have their cousin app for the Android operating system. So of course, there's tons of useful apps, and a number of companies that are making apps are making them for both. Some companies are focusing on one or the other. I think there's more apps for the iPhones and iPads now than Android, but you know, there's apps for both indeed. Okay, great.
And you gave us an overview of so many impressive looking apps. What would you say are like a few must-haves of all the ones that you mentioned?
Oh man, I mean, it really depends on what you're focused on. Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, you know, I mean, yeah, it really depends on what you want to do. I mean, for me, it's a must-have at a certain situation. I was fortunate to be out in Seattle and Portland this spring, and it was so fun to be able to have, as I was on the road, to be able to go, hey, I'm you know, stepping out of this coffee shop or whatever. Is there a heritage tree nearby? Oh, cool, there's one like a block away. Oh my gosh, these are amazing elms. That was a great way to travel, to find that there's information about the trees, since I'm a tree geek, as I went. That was a great experience. So it was a must-have in that situation.
Right. Not only are you a tree geek like many of us, but you also know your technology. There might be a lot of folks listening in who are getting very excited about the opportunities that these apps present, but maybe aren't great at technology or don't sort of know where to begin. And one of the things I found really interesting was you talking about the PDX Trees app in Portland that was open source, their tree map app that someone at the university was able to work on and update for Minneapolis. Do you think it's a good idea if someone wants to create something like that for their city? Do you think they could go to a local university and find a partner there to work with them on it?
Yeah, you know, that was a really great idea that Chad Giblin had at the University of Minnesota, to partner with the IT department and find a student that was interested in learning about developing for iOS devices, or you know, or someone who was interested in looking at Android development. So that the student got a project, and the municipalities and exposure, you know, the product he made is now out there for everyone to freely use, which we'd love your feedback. So yeah, I think that's a great idea, to see if someone out there is interested. Or there's a bunch of tools to teach you how out there for doing simple, adding a point to a Google map, and to make a map on your own, to get that information shared. You can do it on your own by just making a Google map and then putting that link as a bookmark. I think that's a great way to get information out there, and you can start to edit it with My Maps, that free app. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Excellent. We've got a question, sort of a technical question. If I download and pay for an app for my smartphone, do I need to purchase a separate copy for my tablet?
No, you don't. That's a good question. You'll be signed in on both of those devices with your same username and password and your Apple ID in this case, and it will recognize that you own the app for both. Now, if the company made the app, an app will always, if an app works on an iPhone, it will typically also work on the iPad, and sometimes apps are made to be universally move between them and actually almost be a different app. Sometimes, if it's only made for an iPhone, it'll just be a bigger version of the app when it moves to your iPad device. But no, you wouldn't have to purchase two different versions.
Okay, great. And we're going to get a little bit more of this sort of on-the-ground engagement piece when we hear from Ian. But what are some of your recommendations about how people could use these apps not just to enhance their own work, as we've already seen, but to engage the public more in caring about trees?
I think, thinking of citizen science and engaging people, one of the movements in outdoor education, getting people to enjoy their outdoors in sort of in the state parks world has been this using GPS to do geocaching, and it's been found that people like using technological devices when they're in the woods, even though you might think, well, yeah, but you're supposed to be getting away from it. But it's like, yeah, I'm getting out there, but I'm also like using this cool technology, and I've got that excitement going, and I'm in the woods, and I might see a cool bird while I'm out there. I think people like technology, and technology can help us be more efficient. So starting to use technology to guide different studies or to collect data that's important for a group, volunteers and citizens of that community are perfect for that work. And it's really important to get that information, whether it's inventory information or a study based around looking at water infiltration. Using the device to gather information, I think is a great tool. Or if if you live in an area, or if you develop an app that can help start to track invasive species spread, I mean, what a great tool for managers of that resource to utilize.
Excellent. And one last technical question over the line: are the app fees per month or per year, or is it a one-time only thing?
It's a one-time only thing. So if you bite the bullet and buy the app, you've got it. So for instance, that I mentioned there was that one app that had the nice videos about pruning that someone had put together, and that app is no longer in the iTunes store, but I bought it. It's on my device. It lives right there. So that's mine. And now I suppose what some companies will do is they'll have an app out for a while, and then they'll make another app and make a better version of it. So then they'll have like the pro version of it or something, and then you might need to pay to upgrade. But for what you bought, you've got it for the life of it. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for giving such a broad overview of the different types of apps that are out there for tree planters, tree lovers, and just the public as well. I think these are going to be very useful for people. Thank you. And now we're going to get a slightly different perspective on using smartphones for tree care, urban forestry management, and user engagement. Our next speaker is Ian Leahy. Ian is the District of Columbia's Urban and Community Forestry Coordinator, as well as the Community Outreach Specialist for DC's Urban Forestry Administration. Ian has worked in the nonprofit, the for-profit, and the government sectors, and built and managed his own sustainable landscape installation business, and also implemented programs largely focused on engaging underserved populations in urban ecosystem restoration and maintenance. These efforts include education and workforce training initiatives in Washington, D.C., Seattle, Detroit, and Baltimore, including the Be More Green Environmental Career Training Program, which has developed into the Baltimore Center for Green Careers.
Ian studied natural resources policy and management at Cornell, and he hails from the Detroit, Michigan area, and is now not too far down the street from us in Washington, D.C., and we're very happy to have you join us here today, Ian, to talk to us about your QR program.
Well, thank you for having me.
Take it away.
Greetings to everybody. So just to give you some context, I'm with the Urban Forestry Administration in D.C. We're stationed in the Department of Transportation because although we help manage trees throughout the city, our primary focus is street trees because they require so much individualized attention to protect property and lives because there's such an interaction with the urban environment. So what we're going to talk to you today is a program we started just this year. It's new to us since February, I guess, and actually using QR codes to implement programs. Okay, so this is the tag we created. If you're looking at a normal computer screen, it's about the same size. It's about 3 inches by 5 inches. And the front is on the left side. You can see the QR tag right there. And in case someone has no idea what that is, or a lot of people don't have smartphones, we also made sure to put the web address on there. And for people who don't have any internet access, we've gotten this program linked in with the citywide service center 311, so people can call and get the same exact service. So we hit all 3 levels. And then the back side is just the fine print of what they'd be responsible for if they're going to adopt a tree and what they get in return for it. This is what it looks like in the field. Our agency plants about 4,200 trees every year, or I should say we planted that many this past year. We do have a maintenance program, but we really rely on residents and businesses to help us out to provide more consistent watering. So this program was initiated to put that right in front of their homes next to the tree, make that link. So what I'm going to do here is walk you through from someone scanning it all the way through to behind the scenes how we manage that process, and we deliver a watering tub out to them. So someone would walk up. If they don't have the QR scanning app, it's free in Google Play or any of those application folders. You just download it for free. You hold your phone up, and it scans you right to this page. Now, when we initially tried to make it look pretty and put graphics on, but we found different smartphones had trouble loading it. So we made it a very basic, bland form so it could load as quickly and easily as possible and on as many devices as possible. This is nothing more than a Google Docs form. It's free. Everybody can use it, or create your own, I mean. And so once you're there, you can just start typing in the fields. This is the bottom half of the form. We ideally want to get to a point where we have a different QR code for every tree, so if someone scans it, we can geolocate exactly what tree they're linked to. For right now, people still have to input the nearest address, and they can adopt as many trees as they want. We give them room for 5 here, and if they have more than 5, then we ask them to just contact us. At the bottom, we have them sign a virtual signature so that they accept some sort of responsibility for what they're agreeing to. And when they hit submit, they will receive a note that says your request was submitted successfully, and we receive this database. This is still in Google Docs. This has come up free of charge for you too. The one great advantage here is it populates all the fields automatically. I deleted some of those because they're personal information. But before we would get requests and it would funnel through our email system or through the mail, and we would have to retype things, creating the opportunity for error. So we can now manage everything directly. We get the timestamp of when they made the request, and we can track if we've made the deliveries. And one important piece that you see, column E, is wards. Washington, D.C. has 8 wards, and unfortunately, like Ward 3, for example, is an extremely wealthy ward. Ward 8 is not very wealthy. So it helps us track to see what populations we're reaching. We tend to get a lot of wealthier people engaging in these programs, and we have to do extra effort to reach out to underserved populations. So the more we can see those wards participating, the better off the overall program is. So the way we have it set up is we have a specific member of our crew who's designated every Friday. He comes in first thing in the morning. He picks up the delivery list that's generated from that Google Doc form. He loads up as many tubs as he needs, and he just makes the deliveries, leaving them on people's front doors. Or, if it's an apartment building, in the lobby, or right around the tree if there's no other way. These are Bioplex rings. We switched over to these from bags because they're more durable, they last longer, and they're much easier for people to understand. We had a lot of questions with stakes and holes and things like that. The one downside is if they're not maintained, they can get clogged and trap water and become a mosquito issue, so it's important to keep people on top of them. We affix a sticker to it, just so you're aware of that side of it, because we also have watering crews that go around with our planting contractor and such, and they drop similar looking tubs, fill them up, and then pick them up and move them to another area of the city. So we put these red stickers on so they know to leave those tubs behind because someone else is, that's taking care of that tree. They still fill it up with water when they come by, but they just leave the tub. And, I have more to say, but just if you want a quick nuts and bolts, low-cost program, that's it, from the scan to the delivery of the product. I forgot to mention the tags themselves cost 95 cents a piece for us. They're laminated to handle the outdoor weather. They have a little eye hole in the top, and we affix them with a zip tie line to the metal wire that attaches the stakes. And when the stakes are removed, then the tag goes with it. Now, we're in the process of integrating into our broader work management system. Not everyone's going to have access to this kind of depth, but just so you're aware of it, this is CityWorks. You can see on the map those little green circles are street trees. If you click on any of those, it'll bring up when that tree was planted, the DBH, the species, the health of it, and its work history. But this is an internal program, just so you're aware. So the reason we want to integrate this is not only to keep all of our work within one system, because this system manages all of our planting contracts. It manages like we've had a lot of storms come through lately. When we're out in the middle of the night, we have our computer tablets in the field, and we're responding to service requests from residents and creating work orders based on those. So we want to be able to get it in the system for two reasons. One, because we can track mortality rates and size differences. The tree that's adopted does that have a better survivability, does it grow faster, and also it helps us get everything in one system. We've made a big effort in the past 5 or 6 years to get away from using Excel style sheets, and so we can create a work order, submit it to the person who's delivering, and then when that tub is delivered, they can just close it out. So that's where we're heading with this. So we piloted this program in the spring. We didn't know who was going to exactly engage, when you're dealing with technology. So we tried to find a mix, not only socioeconomically, but also with regard to housing structure. In a city like Washington, D.C., we have high-rises where people live, 6, 7 stories above the street and don't really have access to the street. We have row houses, we have single-family homes. And those affect, who's able to, take care of a tree on the street. So you can see here we did Adams Morgan one in the top left is, a central neighborhood, a lot of high-rises, a lot of young professionals live there, tech-savvy population, immigrants, older people. Fairview is a lower-income area east of the Anacostia River, Kenley Town, more suburban setting, a lot of wealth up that area. And then Brookland, that'd be where like a police officer raising his family might live, kind of middle income, or as middle income is. Or, as affordable as DC can be, that would be probably where they would end up. And what we found was we got actually pretty solid response from everything but the lower income areas. And what that told us was this is not a program to engage your underserved populations. This type of QR tag thing is good for for reaching a base, for someone who's motivated to have a green canopy and make the trees grow. If you just put it in front of them, they'll do the rest. Reaching underserved populations takes a lot more nighttime meetings, weekend events, a lot more participation on that front. So we've since expanded citywide. trying to concentrate in areas where we had better response, but we are doing completely across the city, because even if we don't get a lot of scans or anything from the lower income areas, it's good so that, people know that we're out there, they see our logo, they can call if they have questions, so it makes a good connection either way. What we did not target were areas, well, in DC they're called business improvement districts. You might have community development corporations or something similar. Essentially they're nonprofit organizations that businesses voluntarily tax themselves to support. They have a very specific area, and we work closely with them. They do a lot of the outreach to property managers. They have crews in the streets that help water and maintain. So we didn't want to duplicate matters. We wanted to target this program on areas that didn't have that sort of infrastructure in place. This is an example of the downtown bid. If you look at that map in the lower right, the White House is in that green area to the left, the Union Station, the train station here is to the right. So downtown bid manages that blue area, so we didn't hang any tags there. And just in conclusion, when we put this out to the public, we actually got some feedback from the tech industry and even one from the United Kingdom. So I just thought their perspective on it was interesting. This one, I know that I'm breaking the rules of slides by putting too many words, but just in summary, this person was complaining that so many people misuse QR codes. They either scan straight to just a generic home page, or they put them on billboards, on highways, expecting people to somehow scan as they're flying by at 60 miles an hour. So what they liked about what we did, even as simple as it is, was that it was a very actionable item. You scan it, it takes you straight to a page that can then get the person's information and begin the process of getting a product out to that person very quickly. A little more feedback from a graphic designer. He suggested that we should have done more with the design, tree colors, putting our logo in the design of the actual QR code, which we totally agree with. We thought of doing that, but for the first phase, we just wanted to do a free one just to see how it would work out. As we go forward, it's not much, but it's like $20, I think, to get a custom-made one. But in general, people thought it was a good use. It's gotten a lot of positive feedback in the city and beyond, and it's been a good way for us to connect with residents in a way that we otherwise wouldn't. And lets residents kind of see trees in a more tech-savvy way that helps us in an urban culture that's attuned to that sort of technology. So I'm done. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ian. This is a really cool program that you guys have initiated just this spring. Again, we're going to open up the lines for question and answer, and you can type your questions in using that Q&A tab at the top of your screen. We've got a couple questions lined up already, so if you typed one in already, know that we will address those, and anyone else, if you haven't yet, type away. Before we get going on these questions, I want to ask Ian, could you just give a quick description for anyone who's not familiar with QR codes, basically what it is that's sort of like a barcode that you scan using an app on your phone and the camera on your phone, and then it takes you to a website?
Yeah, sure. Let me go back up. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It is exactly like a barcode. It's yeah. So when you download that app for free, you just open it up like you would any other app, and you don't even have to hit a button on those phones. You just hold it up in front of that code that you're looking at on the left, and it'll take you to a page that confirms whether you want to go to that website. You just click on it, and then it takes you directly to whatever is linked on the other side. So they're used broadly, and I'm sure you've seen them all over the place. And I think governments are starting to pick up on it too now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we've got a couple questions out here. First off, someone's wondering if you can talk a bit about how this app was created and roughly how much it costs.
Sure. Like I said, it's really inexpensive. The only cost we had was a tag, which was 95 cents a tag. We printed about 1,200 of them, so we were able to do this for just over $1,000. We do have tax exemption, so we don't pay taxes. So it was straight up 95 cents for us.
And then on the back end, you used Google Docs to collect the data?
Yep. So that was all free. And then, we do the tubs. That gets expensive. Those are, depending on what you do, anywhere from $10 to $20 a tub. You could, but you don't have to deliver anything. You can, you can just get people engaged and just communicate with them regularly. Say, hey, remember to water your tree this week.
And then I guess you would just need someone who could, create the page on your website, right? That it links to.
Yes. Yeah, but even that, I mean, we're not the most tech savvy people, and Google Docs is very straightforward to figure out once you just start looking into it a little bit.
Great. And do you know if I guess this is something you sort of alluded to as a next step, was creating specific QR codes for specific trees so that you could geolocate. But do you know if there are online tools that can take sort of a spreadsheet of values and generate multiple QR codes based on that?
That's a good question. I don't know that answer.
Okay, that's fine, but it sounds like it's something you're working on, so it's something we'll keep track of, and certainly as your program develops, we're going to want to share that with people because it sounds very successful.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Another question coming in. This is, do participants get reminder texts in any way? Is there feedback with the participant after they've signed up with you guys through the QR code?
Yes, even without the QR code, just our tree adoption program in general, we use it as an outreach tool. It's a good way to find people who care about trees, and we stay in touch with them through various means, primarily email. But we have a whole Twitter, Facebook. We have a whole cadre of tools. Okay,
great. Once someone has adopted the tree, is the QR code tag removed when the tub is delivered?
Yes, it should be. No, I wouldn't say I've come across a couple that weren't, but when they deliver, it's supposed to be removed.
That's the idea, right?
Yes.
And are the trees being adopted primarily ones that are in residential districts? And if not, how do you deal differently with commercial district trees?
They are, although so for small commercial, like neighborhood commercial strips, we actually get a lot of participation from businesses. Them, and there's also a lot of residential. And for the main commercial, like downtown, the main commercial centers, we use, like I was saying, we rely on business improvement districts as our primary avenue into those. So like I said, we don't hang tags in there because we have these high capacity partners that, like we give them hundreds of tubs, and they basically take care of a lot of trees throughout their particular business districts.
Gotcha. And speaking of the tubs, is theft of tubs a problem that you found, or not so much?
Can you say that one more time?
Is theft of the tubs a problem at all?
It hasn't been, actually. There have been a few incidents. Sometimes it might have been just the crews not seeing the red sticker as they were going by. There have been a few incidents, but nothing major. We recommend if there's an issue, people can just put a zip tie through the eye holes on the tub. And if anyone's really that desperate for a tub with holes in the bottom, they're going to take it. But it tends to deter just random, kids walking by just grabbing it. But no, we haven't had a major issue.
Okay. And I guess sort of an important question for people who are trying to understand the program and if they could bring it to their city, what kind of staff time is involved in administering this for the 1,200 trees that you tagged?
Let's see. Well, one thing this summer, we have a summer youth employment program here that basically gives high school students jobs throughout the city. So we've been working with our particular group. They've been hanging the tags throughout. It's an easy thing for volunteer groups to do, or intern type things, to minimize staff time. Next year we're going to try to integrate it so that when the planting contract is going around planting the trees, that these things are hung at that time to minimize redundancy of having to send more staff out. So as it advances, there's less and less staff time. The primary staff time is on just the general adoption program itself, just managing that, the deliveries and, just the general, just like you'd have to manage any program. But it's not a full-time job by any stretch.
And what do you do if two people sort of use the QR code to try to adopt a tree? How do you deal with that?
So right now we just have one QR code for the whole city. That's why we want to switch to one for each tree, a different one for each tree. So everyone's scanning the same code. So the issue then becomes if they adopt the same tree, which is a good problem to have. We've had it happen a few times. We just call them up and say, hey, someone else already adopted that. Whoever gets to it first gets it, and then usually people are like, okay, I'll do this one down the street, or oh well,
Gotcha.
It's a good problem to have, though.
It definitely is. Do residents currently collect any tree data, or is that something that you're looking into?
Yeah, we're trying to expand it. Not so much tree data. We have a staff of about 15 arborists, so we try to keep that professional and tight. Yeah, we try to. What they do provide us is feedback on health conditions, and if they see any decline or if the storm did damage. They're basically eyes and ears on the tree from a kind of a layman's perspective, and then if there's an issue, we send the arborist out to make a professional assessment.
Great, and this is sort of a related question, but are you guys thinking at all about using QR codes to help manage a tree inventory?
To help manage tree inventory, I can't say we are, no.
That's fine. Some people are just, since you've got experience with this program, we've got a bunch of questions just asking about your thoughts on how it might relate, or just more generally. So, Ian, do you have any suggestions of how to make QR codes more widely used in lower income neighborhoods?
I don't know. The one thing I say is it's important to give people options, like we put on the tag, the website and phone number and QR code. And you might create tags where the QR code isn't as prominent. But a lot of people have smartphones across all socioeconomic levels. So it's less about access anymore as it is about just informing people of why they should take care of a tree that's on public property. I think that's probably our biggest barrier. In the District of Columbia, we have the law says people have to maintain to the curb of the street, just do basic maintenance, keep it looking nice. So this is a tool to help them do that. But a lot of people just kind of think, oh, the city will take care of that. The city will take care of that. So we just spend a lot of time at evening meetings and weekend events just getting that information out. So I don't think there's a silver bullet way to let technology solve those issues. At least not that I have figured out yet.
We're all working on it. Have you found that this has been more successful in getting people to sign up to adopt trees than some of the other outreach that you had done in the past around tree adoption?
I would say yes, for sure. Outreach in the past, and we still do the more traditional outreach of press releases and social media, and community meetings, and working with civic associations and Main Street programs and things like that. This has been successful in the sense of we're able to reach a population that might not show up to a community meeting at 7 o'clock after a long day of work, but they might be walking by, and they go, oh, okay, cool, and it's right there for them. So yeah, it has proven successful to reach a broader demographic, definitely.
Awesome. Ian, thank you so much for presenting on this and for taking time to ask questions. I know there might be more people out there with questions that we weren't able to get to, but you've got Ian's contact here at the bottom of the screen, and I'm sure he would be happy to answer any questions that you might have about this very neat program. And we'll want to track its success as you guys work on it and expand it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Today's presentation and the recorded session, and as well as a related resource list about all the things that we've discussed, will be available in about 1 week, and Alliance for Community Trees will email everyone who completes this survey that you see on the screen at this link right now. We'll email you the recording and the resource list and all that stuff. So Would really appreciate it if you take a minute now just to answer the brief questions at this link. We'll also email it out to you in a couple minutes. It really helps us to make sure that we're programming webcasts and trainings on topics you want to learn about. A big thanks today to our presenters, Philip Patyandi and Ian Leahy, and of course to our partners at the USDA Forest Service. And thanks to everyone who listened in this afternoon. We appreciate your attendance at these AC Trees webcasts and hope you're having a good time. Have a great afternoon, everybody.